Hello and welcome to A Second Look. My name is Emmett McConnell. In this series, I look back at a previous match in MLS and break down the big plays and goals. In this episode, I'll look at MLS Cup rematch between the Portland Timbers and Atlanta United. Atlanta won 2-0 at Providence Park and continued to improve in areas that had been weaknesses in weeks prior. For Atlanta, we'll focus on two things. First, how both goals were scored, and then the improved work rate they had defensively. In my last video, I criticized Atlanta for not working hard enough to track back, and in this match, there was a real defensive urgency that helped lead to the shutout. For Portland, we'll focus on the gaff left by right back Jorge Moreira, and how the defense struggled to accommodate his attacking runs, as well as some good patterns of play, but a lack of final quality when they needed it most. Let's take a second look. The first Atlanta goal is a well-worked corner kick, but Portland also made a few errors. The first run to point out is this near-post run by Jeff Larentowicz. He pulls Renzo Zambrano with him, but that isn't where the space is created. His movement unsettles Diego Chara, who's set up at the near post. He steps up just slightly, and now Pity Martinez delivers this corner perfect, curling it down and out into the run of Josef Martinez. However, had Chara not stepped up, he likely could have gotten ahead onto this cross, as he starts here, moves here, and then the ball ends up coming here towards his original position. Steve Clark makes a good save, but the rebound is left right on the line, and Julio Cascante just panics in his clearance. And listen, I don't blame him, because in this situation, it's usually just anywhere will do, and he doesn't have time to look up and put it somewhere away from a defender. And he ends up smashing it right into Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez, who can end up claiming the goal. On to the second goal. Julian Gressel wasn't as dominant in this match as against New York City FC. This is because Sebastian Blanco often stayed higher up the field, forcing Gressel to worry about covering LGP, while at the same time, Pity Martinez didn't overload Jorge Villafana, and so Gressel didn't get as much space. In fact, this time it was Justin Merrim on the left who got a lot more room, but we'll touch on that later. Gressel gets his head up. With Blanco high up the pitch, Pity stays wide to force Villafana to stay deep. Diego Chara tries to get over from the midfield position, and he covered a lot of room in this match, but you can't really expect him to be closing Gressel down any faster than he already is. But let's look at the target, Josef Martinez. He's playing off the shoulder of Cascante, but he should be in an offside position. It's Jorge Moreira who actually holds him onside. In the end, this is a really poor line from Portland. They're playing up high enough in their block to risk being hit behind, but Moreira tries to track the run, while the rest try to hold their line. I have no idea how Gressel slots this pass, to be honest, and I struggle to tell if it's poor defending to let it through, or a geniusly weighted pass. It also helps that Cascante steps up ever so slightly, and moves to mark towards Ezequiel Barco, guessing that's where the pass is going, and this makes more space behind him. A little more communication between the defenders could have helped here. Clark and Moreira could let Cascante know of the runner going back door, while Moreira and the rest of the defense also needs to be in better sync to hold this line. Moreira drops while Cascante steps up, and it creates this hole for Martinez to exploit. And it also shows how much the Portland Timbers miss having Laris Mabiala in the center of defense. However, Jorge Moreira ended up being a constant issue on the right side for Portland, and often left Cascante isolated, and the center back struggled to deal with it. Let's take a closer look now in the gaps left by Moreira. He focused more on getting forward, and a few occasions almost made the difference on getting a goal, but it ended up leaving a massive gap in the defense. Normally, I'm a big proponent of fullbacks getting up the pitch, but it didn't seem like Portland was prepared for the backlash. Justin Merrim is a natural winger, and Ezequiel Barco likes to start left and cut inside to his right, which means that there's an overload on this left side, and even with Moreira there, he would need help to cover both of these players. But with him absent, it made things really light for Cascante. Many teams have different ways of protecting the fullbacks as they maraud forward. Often, it's either the weak-sided fullback staying back into a back three, or a back three also being made by a defensive mid tucking into the middle. Either way, you end up getting an even and symmetrical three, where you have one in the middle almost as a sweeper. The problem with Portland is while they did keep Villafana back on some of these occasions, the defense was still lopsided and didn't resemble a three-man back line, but instead a four-man defense just without a fullback on the other side. There was no symmetry. No one took charge and played in the middle of the three and protected the central areas, which allowed the other defenders in this situation to be able to slide out and cover threats on the wing. A big issue that should be pointed out is a few of these attacks do happen because of a bad turnover in the midfield, where Moreira is in an attacking position like this one. It's not necessarily bad positioning from him as much as a terrible giveaway. However, the defense does not identify the threat of his absence. This is a bad backheel in a bad area by Sebastian Blanco for Diego Chara, who is now also out of position as he makes the run, and Barco sprints away in space on the left. Zambrano, the remaining center mid, just jogs back into position, neither closing the ball carrier nor dropping to Barco. Meanwhile, the three defenders need to be better organized. Cascante can leave Joseph for Tuiloma to handle, while Villafana can cover Pity. If the forwards end up cutting across and switching sides, the defenders can just pass off the responsibility. They don't do this, and Tuiloma steps up as Cascante is drawn behind him into the middle. Credit to Chara here as well, as he sprints back to pressure the pass from LGP. However, now Barco's wide open, as Cascante is sucked in and Moreira is up the pitch. The defense makes a good recovery, but it's only because Barco has a bad first touch and he's forced to slow down. While Portland's shape and work rate were lacking at times, Atlanta actually did a really good job of getting numbers back, covering their man and swarming at the right time. Here's a good play from Atlanta when Portland were threatening. Right now, Pogba's the only man in the middle covering the box. Center mids Darlington Nagbe and Jeff Lorenowitz get across so that Pogba doesn't have to cover two men here. Brian Fernandez takes his touch inside of Pogba, and Lorenowitz is quick to step and help his defender, while Nagbe also does the right thing and drops deeper to cover his own midfielder. Merrill, meanwhile, gets back into position on the left, and these three Atlanta center midfielders are all in front of Fernandez and can make a block, while the rest of the team is also in a position should he decide to make a pass. This isn't to say Portland were impotent in the attack either. They did a really good job of splitting lines with passes and getting the ball to their creative outlets in attacking areas. They just lacked the final bit of quality necessary to score against a stubborn defense. A few attacks ended with good shots, but one's not challenging enough for Guzan. On others, the final cross or pass was just not there, or the run wasn't made. While on even others, the decision-making was maybe just slightly off. It's slim margins to score in soccer, and Portland just didn't get it perfect. They did well to isolate Brian Fernandez on Miles Robinson, who ended up making a lot of really good individual stops to save plays at the death. But it often meant that midfield runners were able to get around the forward and create problems, as the rest of the Atlanta players were stretched wide in possession. This is probably my favorite play from the match. I thought Portland had better patterns of play on offense, but left themselves unnecessarily exposed on defense, which came back to hurt them. Villafana runs inside Gressel, who doesn't think that his fullback can get to the pass, which he can't. Even if it did, LGP is defending on the inside, Gressel on the outside, while Pogba and Nagbe are behind him. He'd be quickly surrounded. It instead goes for the inside-out run of Diego Valeri. And this is the right place for backheel, not in the midfield where Blanco did earlier. LGP has no idea the run and flick is coming, and Villafana, who got past Gressel, is now goal side of everyone. It's a really clever combination. He can probably shoot here, but as a fullback his first instinct is to cross, which also isn't a bad idea. It's just that there's no movement in the box that he can get the ball to. Ebobisse tries to get to the back post, but Villafana wants to put it in front of goal. Fernandez should have offered himself for a cutback here, or try to even run in front of Robinson, but he just stands still, and Robinson's able to clear away this cross. On another day, Portland could have had a few goals with some of these attacks, but then again, Atlanta probably had more clear opportunities, and the Portland defense was more exposed. So both sides could have scored more, but I think the result was fair, and indicative of the overall play of both sides. Atlanta ended up sorting out its defensive work rate from the previous week, while Portland left itself too exposed. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.